Hey guys, this is cobradvs and Neo Flynn,
Hey everybody.
and I can't believe we're doing it. It's season
It's
two.
it's back finally.
Yeah, man, it's been well, I can't even tell you how long it's been. Really, it's
Five and a half
six,
months.
yeah, 6 months or so. Uh, well, the Halloween, the last show was gonna be Halloween, but Jack, your son was born, and
Yeah,
that
he
never
decided to
happened.
make an
So,
early appearance and screw everything
Arr. Yeah. So we're giving it another go. Um, So the formula's changed. I've said that, and I made a little update video, and I said that, but give a few more details on how it's changed. Here's how the show's going to run. We're going to do questions and comments again. Obviously not on this video, but that'll be that. And then we'll do news. We're going to do 2 stories each, and then we're going to have something called Gaming Spotlight. Gaming Spotlight is um, it's basically like the topic of the show, a discussion, kind of a room for us to talk about a certain area, the main point of the show. Then after that, we'll do Game of the Week, and then we're going to end on what we're playing, what games we're currently playing. We got rid of eBay, so no more eBay. It just kind of didn't really flow well. I didn't really think it. Some days it worked, some days it didn't.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
kind of the weird stepchild at the end of the show.
the redheaded stepchild. Um, Yeah, so we did away with that. Other than that, though, it's basically the same. There's really not much different. I think this is going to be a little more well-rounded too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll take the portion. What I just said, that little update will take the portion of the questions and comments section, and we can just go ahead and move on to news. So Nick, you can go ahead and start. I have you listed first here on the
Oh, okay.
outline thing.
Well, the first thing that I saw that caught my eye this week is, of course, the ever rampant rumors of every new system. But specifically the next PlayStation, which supposedly is codenamed Orbis. Um,
Yeah, that's an odd name, I thought.
yeah, I mean those code names never really turn out to be what the system's called. Like
Hmm.
you remember, GameCube was called Dolphin forever, and
Dolphin, yeah.
yeah. So, but supposedly it's being planned for holiday of 2013. So a fair, over a year and a half away, but not too terribly far away. So, and basically, it was the source that this story came from was somebody within Sony, but they weren't authorized to speak on the matter, so of course they have to remain anonymous. But Orbis, they say, sounds a little like 4 if you say it right, I guess. But that doesn't make any sense to me. But the main thing is the specs. It's got supposedly an AMD X64 CPU and an AMD Southern Islands GPU.
Is that good?
I'm not up to the knowledge of what's good and what's bad, but
Right.
that apparently it's their AMD's 2012 roster of high-end PC cards. So it's not bad. The one big rumor was that it's not going to be backwards compatible with PlayStation 3 games.
Hmm.
That they're not even going to try. So, which a lot of people make a big deal out of that, but to me, it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's only something that, like, it's kind of like a recent trend. What was the first system that did it, aside from the Game Boy Color, was the PlayStation 2?
PlayStation 2 was compatible with PS1, yeah, but,
Yeah, so, I mean,
most people still have the previous system, so just
yeah,
hang on to your system. And then you can still play your old games just like we do now, but,
right. Plus, I've
that,
noticed a lot of the time when a system's backwards compatible, there's some sort of fault with playing the previous game, like on 360, for example, if you can actually get an original Xbox game to work. Um, you can't use any Xbox Live features like party chat or messaging, nothing.
while you're playing it, yeah.
Right, so you might as well just play it on an original Xbox. There's really no
Right.
benefit. Yeah,
And
but
the other major thing that caught my eye, and this is something that they've been talking about with both the new PlayStation and the new Xbox, is this either that it won't have discs at all or that it won't be able to play used games,
hmm
which to me is a really, really huge deal because, I mean, you're talking about, basically eliminating GameFly, eliminating the ability to let your friend borrow a game,
Yeah.
all sorts of things like that. So hopefully they go about it in the right way, and maybe you could play a game for 4 days or whatever, and then it locks out or something. To at least give yourself a chance to check out a game without having to buy it.
Right.
You know.
As far as download only, it's not really a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because that's gonna
When,
happen.
yeah.
But I don't think we're at the right time yet. Not most people have internet, but a lot of people don't. And that's just gonna cut out so many people
Yeah.
from getting games. And I think most people would probably agree that having something tangible is much better than a download.
Yeah, and, especially people like us, we're collectors, so we
Yeah, yeah,
want
yeah,
we want that hard piece of game,
yeah, yeah,
to be able to store on our shelves or
yeah.
whatever. We don't want.
Yeah, there's nothing to. I mean, as soon as that happens, as soon as they start going digital like that, there's not going to be anything to collect in the future.
Exactly.
You're going to have to just scour Google searches until you can find a 30-year-old BitTorrent of some game or something.
Right.
So,
So
I don't,
that was,
I don't, I don't
a
like
little
that
bit.
idea at all. All right, I'll go ahead with mine. Control plus click. Links in Microsoft Word are so hard to get to.
Yeah.
Okay, my first one is the Nintendo 3DS outsells the PS Vita 10-1 in Japan. That's insane.
Yeah,
Um,
I wasn't surprised that it was outselling it. I was surprised by how much it was
yeah.
outselling it. Like, that's ridiculous amount.
So the numbers are 121,921 3DSs compared to 12,105 PS Vitas.
Yeah.
um, that, like you said, there's no surprise that Nintendo outsold Sony in the handheld market, but by that margin, that's insane.
Yeah, and especially with Vita being so new, like you would think it would have a little boost just from being,
Yeah,
uh,
it's got a lot of pretty cool games on it.
yeah, from what I've seen, it's an impressive little system. It's just so dang expensive, but
Yeah, I played it at GameStop, and I played Hot Shots Golf actually, and I've only played Hot Shots Golf 3, but those are really fun games, and I was impressed with it. I mean, it's a little big, but it fits nicely. Everything about it was okay, acceptable, no glaring flaws. But the problem is you're not gonna get any. For me, it's all about like the Mario Kart, the big Nintendo games. Those are what draw
yeah,
me in, and you're never gonna get that on a Sony. So I I I won't buy the Vita, but I'm not gonna knock it because it is a pretty cool little thing.
yeah. I mean, it's not a bad handle. I mean, I just barely got a PSP like this past Christmas. Actually, my mom actually, for some reason, somebody bought her and her husband one. I don't know why. So she actually re-gifted it to me because she knew I'd use it. So
Yeah,
I'm just now on that bandwagon. So I probably won't be picking up a Vita anytime soon.
yeah. What I thought was pretty cool with the Vita is it was very app heavy, kind of like you have like apps on it like a
Hmm.
smartphone. So that's something I wish that the 3DS would do. You can do that on it, but and it has a browser, but I'd like to see a YouTube app or maybe a Facebook app or something like that to get it, more in the
Yeah, it's kind of limited. And
yeah. But I think that comes down to one thing that actually my other news story relates to, which we'll do after yours, is that Nintendo is all about the games. They're all
yeah,
about the games. They're not about, well, I don't want to say they're not about gimmicks because they are a little with the Wii and the 3DS and all that, those kind of gimmicky things, but on the whole, it's about the games. Um,
yeah, Nintendo's always been that way too. It's like
mhm,
they focus on, making good games and not worrying about, having the most powerful system or,
right. Uh, Like if you go back to, let's say, the Super Nintendo, when the Genesis was coming out with these attachments like the Sega CD and the 32X, Nintendo didn't, and
right.
they ended up barely, but they did end up winning the console war that time, because it was about the games. I don't think the fact that the Sega CD and 32X didn't do too well that probably affected their decision. I'm sure, because they
Yeah,
actually were working on a disc system with Sony, but that sort of fell through and
yeah,
became the PS1. So
exactly.
yeah, so so yeah. Anyway, so the Vita not doing so hot. I'm not sure that anybody really expected it to take off, but
Yeah, I mean, it's especially with handhelds. It's like a new system. Nintendo has such a handhold on that market that it's
Oh yeah,
really hard to
it's
break. I
relentless.
mean, even the PSP never did tremendously great, but
Hmm.
so it's interesting though that it's that big of a gap. So
Yeah, especially in, well, I don't want to say especially in Japan because Nintendo was huge in Japan, but Sony's Japanese as well, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
So, well, whatever.
moving on to my second one, and this is something kind of interesting. Basically, it's the newest Rock Band game, which I know everybody's going, we're sick of Rock Band games, but the plastic instrument genre has kind of run its course. But this one is actually something very interesting. It's called Rock Band Blitz. It's going to be an Xbox Live Arcade / PSN title, and basically it plays similar to where Harmonix first got their start, which was Frequency and Amplitude. I don't know if you've ever played either of those.
No, I.
They're spectacularly awesome rhythm games, and it's basically instead of playing a plastic instrument, you're hitting buttons. And what Bliss is going to do is you'll be able to switch independently between the different instrument tracks, and you've got to follow along and press buttons. So it's something different for the Rock Band franchise. But I think it'll be really cool because I loved Frequency and Amplitude. They were a lot of fun to play. So
Is that like those Beat Mania games?
kind of. It's more like I said, just kind of like Parappa the Rapper or
Mm,
those type where it's button presses rather than you know trying to play an instrument. But
sure,
and
yeah.
basically the whole Rock Band back catalog will be playable in this new one. So
Oh,
it's
that's
cool.
cool.
And then anything you buy in Blitz, you can play in Rock Band 3 if you still play Rock Band
Hmm.
3. But
I
I think it's a good move for the studio and the genre essentially because I think we're all sick of plastic instruments at this point.
right. I I was when I remember I played Guitar Hero 2 for the first time. It was pretty cool. It wasn't really anything I was interested in until I played it and was like, wow, that was a lot of fun. So when
Yeah,
my
I mean
birthday,
they're fun, especially if you could get a big group of people and you're all making fools out of yourselves trying to play it. Then that's when it becomes fun. But
hmm
it was just such an overload because you had all those you had Rock Band up the wazoo, then you had all the Guitar Hero
oh man,
iterations. There was 15 different Guitar Heroes every.
yeah,
So I think it just got overload and kind of killed the market. But,
yeah,
so I think this is a good thing that they're doing. And they may try and revive the classic Rock Band somewhere down the line, but
hmm
I just thought it was an interesting turn, especially if you like the old school rhythm games. So
right. Okay. All right. Well, my last one is it's annoying. Is what it's what it is. Is annoying. It's from some site I've never even heard of, and it's some anonymous studio has made these claims that the Wii U's graphics are, and I guess this is a quote, less powerful than PS3 and Xbox 360. Um, Here's the thing. Even if that is true, which a lot of other companies have come out and said, like even before this story came out, that the Wii U is more powerful. I think like Gearbox has said it. I think id Software may have said something. Epic Games said something. But even if it is true that the graphics are less powerful than the 360 or PS3, who cares? You know what I
right,
mean? Because like I just said 10 minutes ago, Nintendo's about the games, and if graphics are so important to you that it's going to completely deter you from excellent games, then you're ignorant, I guess is the word.
by all means, don't play your Wii U if that's
Right, yeah, yeah.
if that's your only reason.
Yeah. And here's something I was thinking about earlier. People always talk about graphics. I mean, if you're gonna have a game on 360 and it looks poor, then that's when you can talk about graphics. But if a
Right.
game's on the Wii and it looks pretty good for a Wii game and people still say it has bad graphics, well, come on. It's doing what it can do and it looks fine. And
Yeah.
if graphics are that important, then, why would you here's like a little or a little example. Why would anybody play a handheld system at home? If graphics are that important, why would you play a handheld system at home when the graphics are worse than on any console? Because it's not about the graphics, it's about the games. That's
Right.
why. And,
Yeah,
people.
it's just I mean if it does turn out to be less powerful like you said, who cares? It's about the games.
Hmm.
I don't think graphics have ever made or, failed a game. based
Hmm.
solely on graphics. If the
Right.
game's good, we'll play it. We don't care.
Yeah, and I think the Wii is like a huge shining example of that. I mean, it was the least powerful system, and it sold the most. So
Yeah.
that's that's something to be had there. That's pretty cool. I like that. I'm pretty excited for the Wii U, by the way. I've been hearing some of the launch titles or some of the games that are coming out for it anyway.
Yeah, it's
It's it's piqued my interest, and I think they're saying it's supposed to come out in like it's rumored to be I think November 18th is the word.
oh really?
5 days after my birthday. uh,
Pitch in.
yeah. Uh, I'm concerned about the price. I hope it's not too expensive, but I don't expect it will be. But
The only thing that scares me is that you've got that, the LCD touchscreen on the tablet controller. That's the
mhm,
only thing that scares me because those things are still not cheap to produce. So,
right, yeah. Well,
you know,
hopefully it's not too bad.
yeah, we'll
Um,
see. I mean,
hopefully it's no 3DS price at 250 for a console is really good, but for a handheld, it's a little
it's
high.
pricey, yeah.
I think I got mine for 160, which was pretty good after the price drop. So no complaints for me. All right, so that's it for all the new, well, for all the news stories we've picked anyway. So next we're gonna move on to the new thing. It's called Gaming Spotlight, where it's sort of like the topic of the show. Um, and Nick and I are gonna choose one week, and the opposite person will choose the next week. And I chose the first week, and I thought it'd be interesting to talk about sequels and prequels, and their pros and cons, and let's kind of talk about them. I have a few series that I want to mention have done sequels well, and some that have done sequels poorly. Um, so I think it's interesting. Nick, this is kind of an odd question, but what do you think about sequels?
If they're done correctly, I think they're great. If you build upon the previous game and, change things that were terrible or, not so good and just make a better game, then I think they're good. It's when you don't try and you just squish out more of the same thing that,
Hmm.
I think it fails. Like, I think Gears of War is the prime example because, you take a look at Gears of War 1 and you compare it to Gears of War 3 and you can just tell how much work they put in between the games. Like, yeah, it's the same core gameplay, but every game got better and they were all fun to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was actually
And
one of the series that I wanted to mention.
because I think that's the prime example. And
Yep.
I would almost say like the anti-example to that is kind of Call of Duty
Hmm.
because they might change a little bit here and there, but the core they really keep the same. And,
Yeah.
it's just more of the same thing. Like I find myself, yeah, I bought Modern Warfare 3 when it came out. I never even finished the single player campaign because I got so bored with it.
Yeah.
So I think that's an example of what not to do.
Right.
Because
I
I
think
just kind of, at that point, I'd been burned out on it and I set it aside and I've never picked it up again.
yeah. I think when you can maybe put two TVs next to each other and play one game and then play its sequel, and if distinguishing between the two is a problem, then well you have a problem. And I think if
Exactly.
you put say Modern Warfare 2 and 3 next to each other, to somebody who doesn't play those games, it's not going to be too easy to distinguish. And it's
Yeah.
you hate to pick on Call of Duty because it does get a lot of flack, but it is the prime example. Same thing with what we were talking about a minute ago, Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
I mean, those literally look the exact same.
Exactly the same. Yeah.
Yeah, just different
That one didn't even come
songs.
to mind, but that's a perfect example.
Yeah. And then Tony Hawk, they kind of ruined Tony Hawk too with
Yeah.
the sequels. Do you notice a trend with those three games? Activision. Yeah. So they've strayed. Another series I wanted to mention was Mario. When you look at the mainstream Mario games, there is only let me make sure I have this right. Yes, there are only two games that you can compare and be confused, and that's Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, and those are direct sequels. So let's go back and start with Mario 1. If you put Mario 1 next to Mario 2, the American Mario 2, not the Japanese,
Right.
because that wouldn't work if you did the Japanese one. Um, you can clearly tell it's different. You put and it's a well, this might some people might not agree, but I think Mario 2 is a little. I actually enjoy it more than the original.
Yeah, that one's kind of a hard comparison because they changed the core so much between, because Mario 2 in America, in Japan, isn't really a Mario game.
Hmm.
They converted it to be a Mario game to sell it to an American audience. So that one I would compare maybe 1 more to 3. You
Yeah,
know.
true. Yeah, true. Um, and even if you compare 1 to 3 or even 2 to 3, of course, it's all different. And they're well, this is a little subjective, I guess, but they're all steady improvements. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, no,
Um,
some people bag on 2, but
yeah, I think
they
it's an
don't know
excellent
good games.
game. Yeah, it's actually one of the few Mario games I haven't beaten. It's pretty tough. I find it pretty tough.
Yeah, it is really hard,
Yeah.
especially later on.
Okay, so after 3, you have Super Mario World, which is a 16-bit step. It's pretty similar, I guess, to Mario 3 in the map sequence, but
Yeah, you got the map, but
it's
you added Yoshi and you
it's
added
a
the different.
massive,
Yeah.
massive improvement. It's so good. And then from there, you've got Mario 64, which is just insane. That's probably my favorite Mario game. And then Mario Sunshine is after that, which is similar, but they changed it with the flood attachment.
Yeah.
That changes the gameplay completely, but it's still at the core. It's the same. And then after that is Mario Galaxy, which is another amazing game, but again, very different from Mario Sunshine. Maybe not at its core, obviously it's still a platformer and what have you, but it's definitely different.
Yeah, they all play different, but they all feel like Mario. Like,
Right. And then Mario Galaxy 2 is the only one that's really like Mario 1 or Mario Galaxy 1, but they did include Yoshi and a few other things. So that I think Mario's a great example. I think Gears of War is a really good example for the reason that all three of them are on the same console, released just a couple years apart. So
yeah.
it can be done to be released close to each other and still, you know, be good sequels that are improvements on the previous one.
Yeah, and really if you look at 1 and put it next to 3, like you can see the difference. Like right away, okay, that's 2 different games, but
Yeah.
it's the same style. But I mean that series it's close to my heart. I had so much fun playing through that game.
I have
We
to,
actually played through the entire game co-op with James, Mr. Borderlands. So um like we had so much fun playing through that game. Like that series
actually,
is
I actually have to get 3 yet. I don't have 3.
you're missing
I
out.
haven't played it, and yeah, I've never heard a bad thing about it really. So I do
No,
want to
it's
give it a shot.
yeah, and like the multiplayer, like they added, the horde mode and stuff. They change that every game. So there's so much to do and so much to play in those games that it's not like Call of Duty where I threw it to the side 2 months later.
Right. Another series I have down is Zelda. When you talk about sequels, I think a lot of people say they do mention Zelda being, well, every Zelda game's the same. Well, that's tough because they kind of have a point. But
To an extent, yeah, but
but I think it's kind of like a mix. It's sort of like the Mario 2. It's so easy to tell the difference between them.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, that core is still there. It plays similar, but you can see the improvements. Like especially, you take the original Legends of Zelda, compare it to Link to the Past. There's
Holy cow, that's my
yeah, they
favorite
play the
game.
same,
Oh
but
man, they get
there,
so long.
there's no comparison when you really break it down.
Yeah. I mean, what I like about the Legend of Zelda series is it seems like each game has its own like art style. Like obviously 1 and 2 are limited, being on the NES, and then 3 was sort of or Link to the Past was sort of a precedent for its type.
Yeah.
And then Ocarina of Time, again, kind of limited, but it you could tell it was different. I've never played Majora's Mask. I can't really comment on that.
Yeah, from what I know, it's very similar to Ocarina of Time. Like, very similar. But I'm
Well,
not the hugest Zelda fan in the world, so I haven't played either one of those.
oh, okay. Well, you haven't played Ocarina of Time?
No, I know.
Oh,
Slap me now.
do you have a do you have an N64?
I do.
Well, you
I
know
don't.
what? Just get on the Wii. That's what I'd say. Just get on the actual
It's just like I'm just not that huge of a Zelda fan. Like,
one. I
but
wasn't until I beat Link to the Past and then got Ocarina on the 3DS. I mean, they're just like shooting heroin, man. You can't quit.
and the N64 the one system like that I didn't have when it was popular, so
Mm.
I missed a lot of those classic N64 titles that I need to go back and play now.
Right. Okay. What else did I want to? Oh yeah. After Majora's Mask, these three games are so different in how they look. It's ridiculous. Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and Skyward Sword. Wind Waker is like cel-shaded cartoon
So
graphics.
yeah, which a
Twilight
lot of
Princess,
people got really pissed about when that
yeah.
when
Twilight
they changed
Princess,
it.
Twilight Princess is the exact opposite. It's like a dark-sided kind of Zelda game.
Yeah,
And then
which is
Skyward.
what.
Oh, go ahead. Which is what?
Well, that was what Wind Waker was supposedly originally going to look like, and then they went that cell shader route, and everybody got pissed off.
Drama queens. No.
Mhm.
um, and then Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword is really interesting. It's like a watercolor almost.
Yeah, it's a very interesting
Painting.
graphic style.
Yeah, I'm actually playing through that now, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm playing through that now, and that's a lot of fun. That's a really fun game. Um, and my one last thing I wanted to ask you about remakes and reboots. What are you
Yeah,
thinking on those?
it depends. Like, if you do something good with it, make it worthwhile to play through the game again. Like,
Hmm.
take, Halo Anniversary Edition.
I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I mean, here's a game that I spent, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours playing when it first came out. And as soon as Anniversary Edition came out, I went and picked it up and started playing hours and hours and hours again. Like, because it was, especially the updated graphics and, the things that they added, like the terminals and the skulls,
Mhm.
it made it worth playing through a game that I knew front to back,
Yeah,
side to side. So,
I think that's like a prime example of how to do a remake. That there's really not that many remakes out there.
yeah, I mean, they just released that Metal Gear Solid collection.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's
They
right.
remade all of it. I think they're in HD. I don't know if they did anything else to them.
Hmm. Oh.
And then there was one release not too long ago that I picked up that I actually haven't had a chance to play yet. And that was the Eco and Shadow of Colossus collection.
Yeah, I've heard about those, but I've never played.
I played Eco a little bit when it first came out. It was a very interesting game. So I did pick up the collection and because I wanted to play Shadow of Colossus, but I never got the chance.
Hmm.
But those are supposed to be really well done. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you do it right, like you don't just shovel the same crap out again. I think it's, I think they're worthwhile if you do them right.
Right. And then with reboots, there's a lot of reboots out there. Some that come to mind, Ninja Gaiden. That turned into a pretty popular series.
Yeah.
I think Ninja Gaiden is a good way to do it right. It's really not that much like the original on the NES, but it's like
Right.
it's impossible to be like that. But it's still the same characters, the same overall atmosphere. But there was another one I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, and here's how to do it wrong. Bomberman Act Zero. I heard it's one of the first games ever made. Which isn't really a reboot, I guess, because the series has been kind of going, but that was a more, like, different way. It kind of was a reboot, I guess. Kind of like a different route.
Yeah.
And I heard it was atrocious.
One of the worst games ever, I think.
Have you played it?
I have not, but just everything I've ever seen says stay far, far away from it. So.
Yeah, Bomberman's a lot of fun. I like those games.
The originals are great, but
yeah. All right, well, we can actually go ahead and move on to Game of the Week. Because it sort of fits in with what we were just talking about, reboots. And it's the Game of the Week. I picked it this week. It's Kid Icarus Uprising on the 3DS. And then I thought we could also mention Kid Icarus on the NES.
On the NES.
Kid Icarus Uprising. Let's see. When did I get it? I didn't get it on launch. Actually, I didn't even really plan on getting it that much. I really wanted to get it. I just wanted to see what it was like first, because when you watch gameplay footage of it, the game looks insane. Looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really does.
I remember when it came out, I searched some reviews, and I think IGN's was the first that came out, or the first that I saw anyway, and I think they gave it like an 8.5. It's like, that's a solid score. And then I was looking at other ones, and they were complaining about the controls. for me, I can play a bad game that has good controls, but I find it a lot more difficult to play a good game that has bad
As
controls.
bad control. Yeah,
Um,
control can ruin a game like that. You know,
yeah, and
it's the exact opposite of the graphical discussion. Like you can have a good game with bad graphics and it won't really matter, but
mhm,
a good game with bad controls and
it's
you're kind of
game
screwed.
over, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I was hearing about these controls, and it concerned me. Um, but I was at GameStop, and I just kind of walked in there, not really with any intention on buying anything. And I was sort of looking at Skyward Sword. It's like, oh damn, I really want this game, you know. And then I was looking at Kid Icarus, and I was like, well, this looks fun. I'm not sure if I'd play it. And I was talking to the kid, the guy that works there, and he's like, yeah, I was hearing some iffy things about it too. And I didn't get it. And I got home, and I sort of looked up more reviews and stuff, and it's like, you know what? I'm gonna just take the shot. It's just $40. It it's probably a good game, so I got it. I brought it home. And it comes with this little stand that you can set the 3DS on to make it easier to control. And I gotta tell you, it's a great game. But they're right in criticizing the controls. How it works is, I don't know if you know how it works or not, but
I mean, just what I read, which
yeah.
was kind of hard to wrap my head around having not played it. But
So I'm actually left-handed, which actually makes it even more awkward to hold. But you hold the 3DS with your left hand, and you use the thumbstick for moving, and the left trigger is shooting, and use your right hand for and use the stylus on the touchscreen, and wherever you touch on the stylus on the touchscreen corresponds with the top screen has a cursor on it. So you like
okay.
move it on the bottom screen, and it corresponds to the cursor on the top. And you know, it's not the most comfortable thing you could ever use or ever do, but it really doesn't hinder it. I don't think. It's a lot of fun. You get used to it. And once you get used to it, it's a great game.
So like you have to have the stand then. Like you couldn't try and hold it and play it, right?
You don't have to have the stand. No,
Okay.
I play it without the stand quite often. You know, when you're lying down, that stand is practically useless. Um, but yeah, you just hold it with your left hand, and which could get tiresome if you just hold it with your left hand. Your left hand could get tired holding that thing. But when you use the stylus, I sort of like cup my hand so it's resting on my palm while I'm using the stylus. So it's almost
Okay.
like I'm using two hands.
I got
And
you.
there are some other control options I haven't used, but there are some. But the bottom line is the controls. Once you get used to them, it's one of the best games on 3DS. And I think anybody who has a 3DS is doing themselves, you know, not doing themselves justice by not playing it, or at
No.
least give it a shot.
And I hear it's got like tons of replay value, like
Yeah, there's like so many things you can unlock. It's insane.
and like scale the difficulty, like
Oh man, you can max it up. It's pretty cool. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah. There's like I think there's like over 100. They call them like achievements, but it's not like a 360 achievement or anything. It's basically just an unlockable.
just within
Um,
the game.
yeah, after you do certain things, and you can ramp up the difficulty. The difficulty like constantly increases as you beat levels. But you can adjust it on your own if you want. And if you die, it'll scale back the difficulty
Scale
when
it back.
you
Oh,
replay.
okay. That's
So,
cool.
yeah, but I mean, right, like the scale is like 1 to 10. Right now, I'm on like a 3.2 because I'll beat a level, but I'll die. So I just keep going back from 3.2 to 2.6. It goes back by zero point 0.6 for whatever reason, but it just keeps scaling back from there. So I've been at actually like 3.2 to 2.6 for quite a few levels now. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I could ramp it up all the way to 10, and I'm not sure it'd be as fun, but yeah, I could do it.
Right.
As far as the gameplay goes, what it reminded me of was Panzer Dragoon, because that was like the latest rail shooter I had played,
Right.
and it's pretty cool. You know,
It
it's
like switches back and forth too, right? Like it's got some platforming and then like it switches to a rail shooter.
yeah. The rail shooting parts are like the first half of the level, and then at some point you'll land somewhere or get to some place where you'll start running around and shooting. Those parts are a little tedious to control because you don't. The only way to turn is to slide the stylus from left to right or right to left, depending which way you want to turn. So the controls are a little wonky on that. But again, once you get used to them, it's all good.
Not that bad.
Right. And then Kid Icarus on the NES. They're actually, from what I understand, there's only 3 Kid Icarus games. There was a Game Boy one, which I've never played. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Um,
I didn't even know there was a Game Boy one. So.
yeah. And then there's Kid Icarus on the NES. You were just looking up gameplay, you said?
Yeah, because I knew I'd played it, but I couldn't picture it in my head, so I had to go, scour YouTube and find some gameplay just to remind myself of what it looked like.
Yeah.
And as soon as I saw it, I'm like, okay, yeah, now I remember.
Hmm.
But it was really cool because it was it was a platformer kind of similar to Metroid,
Hmm.
which had a lot of vertical elements where you were going up the screen,
Hmm.
rather than just going sideways.
Yeah.
It was brutally difficult, as I remember, though.
Kid Icarus?
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
well, most games back then, they were all
That's
hard.
that's
Breeze.
true.
But
Um,
it was just really cool. It was something different back
mhm.
then. It was a platformer, but it was different than your standard Mario game.
Yeah. I have it, and I haven't spent enough time with it. It is a cool game, like you said. It's different, and it's supposed to be insanely difficult. Um, but I haven't really reached the part where I guess it gets insanely difficult.
Yeah.
But the steady climbing up, like I said, it's something different. So it's pretty cool. It's probably not for everybody, but it's pretty cool. I guess that's just like the 3DS one. It's a cool game, but it's not for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. I wish I knew more about Kid Chris for the NES so we could talk about it more, but I don't.
It's
So
one of those. Definitely check it out and see if you
yeah,
like it.
it's fun. I don't think you'll be disappointed, but
Yeah,
I
it's one
can't.
of those underrated classics. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I guess that's it for Kid Icarus, unless you have anything else to add.
Not at this time, no.
Not this time. Okay, so we can go ahead and move on to the last segment. It's the What We're Playing segment. And I've done a lot of talking, so why don't you go ahead and start?
All right, I will start. Basically, on the current gen side, I've got two games that I've been spending the majority of my time with, as far as consoles go. If you don't count Star Wars: The Old Republic, which I'm not going to talk about, because I'll talk all night. But Homefront, which is what I currently have out from GameFly, which is it's a first-person war shooter, but it's a very different take on it. I don't know if you know much about it.
Yeah, it's the one where it's on American soil, right?
Yeah, basically what happens is it's in the not so distant future, and basically what happens is not unlike what recently happened. Kim Jong-il dies. His son takes over North Korea, and basically begins to take over the world, finishing with America. So basically you have this North Korean alliance that's come in and just taken over America, and you're part of this resistance that's fighting against it. And as you start, you don't really know who your character is. You just know that he's some pilot that the resistance wants to recruit. And it's really weird to see like Middletown, America, but you're in this you're in the middle of a war, in the middle
Hmm.
of what could be your neighborhood very easily. So
Yeah.
it's kind of jarring when you first start playing it, but it's really well done. I think I'm about halfway through. And there's the visuals are very haunting. Like there's without giving it's not really a spoiler, but there's this one scene in the game where you're you come across this baseball field basically in the middle of this town, and they're just dumping American corpses into like this mass grave. And it's like it's very haunting to see that in a game where this could very easily be happening in your neighborhood. So
Yeah.
it's one of those. It's something different on the genre, but it's outside of that, it's kind of a generic shooter. But it's I'm having fun playing through it. So
Yeah. I remember when that game was, announced and how it was a different take on it. Um, but I heard when it was announced, it was kind of disappointing. Um, I've never played it, so I can't really comment, but I'd probably give it a run through.
yeah, the main thing I've heard is that it's really short. Like the single campaign, I think is about 10 hours, which
Oh, 10 hours. This,
is not terrible, but
yeah, that's
I
kind of
think people
alright.
expected more out of it because it does kind of turn into generic shooter, but
Yeah.
it's not bad. Like the concept is really cool.
Yeah, wasn't it, I heard it was written by the same guy that wrote that movie Red Dawn, is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not,
that's a pretty,
but
that's pretty
yeah, the story is really well done.
cool.
So, and the other one is Pinball Effects 2, which I when this is kind of funny as to why I've been playing that. When Jack was first born, you're kind of limited in what you can do when you have an infant running around and
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
But when you have an infant in your arms half the day. So I found Pinball FX was something that I could play and hold him at the same time. So I
Yeah.
spent a ton of time holding him and playing Pinball FX at the same time.
Oh well.
And my friend and I, once again, James, because that's all we do is play games together. We have kind of a back and forth competition as to who can get the high score on different tables, and there's so many tables available for it that it never gets stale.
What system is this?
It's on Xbox Live Arcade,
Oh,
and
okay.
it is also on PSN, I
Oh,
think.
nice.
But like Zen Studios is who does it, and they like have mastered the home version of pinball. Like it's the table physics are spot on, and there's all sorts of different challenges within the different tables that you can do. But the ones that are really cool is they have a bunch of Marvel universe themed tables, and those are a blast to play. So I highly recommend. And you can actually download it, and like you can just pick what tables you want. And it's a certain amount of points for each table, or you can get multi-packs that have like 4 tables. So
Oh, did you say Marvel Universe, like superheroes and stuff?
yeah,
Oh, okay. That's pretty.
like
That's pretty neat.
yeah. There's a let's see, there's a Spider-Man one, Wolverine. Trying to think of what other ones. Um,
Hulk.
there's a whole on X-Men table. Ghost Rider. Captain America. So there's like 8 different Marvel ones, I think. So.
Yeah. That's
But
pretty.
they're all unique, and they're all each table feels different. So
I'm trying to think. I've never really played any. I used to have the Gottlieb collection for the pinball collection for the GameCube, but other than that, and Sonic Spinball, of course. But I've not really played much pinball.
yeah, these are fun because they feel like real pinball tables.
Hmm.
And the only other thing that I mentioned, which is kind of retro, it's PS2 game, but is Gitaroo Man, which I kind of mentioned earlier.
What is it?
Gitaroo Man. It's before Guitar Hero.
Oh yeah, okay.
There was, you know, a bunch of rhythm games, but this one is very interesting in the way you play it. Basically, you've got button presses, but you also have to manipulate the analog stick and point it in certain directions to follow along with this line that you have going on your screen. It's insanely hard. I'm only on like the 3rd song because I can't beat half the song. Like it takes me like 3 hours to beat a song because you have to, and it's really weird because the patterns are not always the same. Because it'll switch from you manipulating the analog stick to then you have to do button presses. And those come at you so fast that and they're never the same. So you can't memorize it. You have to just pay attention to what's coming at you. So it gets kind of hard.
Yeah,
But
it sounds really hard.
It's actually a somewhat rare game that I got a total steal on. I got it for like $4. So, but it's definitely if you can get a hold of it, or I think there's a version on PSP that's not nearly as expensive. But it's Rock Band before Rock Band was cool. So, or Guitar Hero, I should say. But.
Oh. Yeah. All right, well, I've got 3. The first one is Kid Icarus Uprising. We already talked enough about that, but I am playing that right now. I haven't played it in a few days because I've been playing something else, but I'm trying to think how far into it. One thing I didn't mention before is the boss battles in Kid Icarus Uprising they're awesome. They're like really large scale. Like some of these bosses are huge, real big arenas and stuff like that. It's really cool. It's kind of like that Castlevania Lords of Shadow game. If I'm not mistaken, isn't Shadows of Colossus? Aren't the bosses in that game huge too?
Yeah, that's the whole concept of it.
Yeah, it's
gargantuan.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's pretty cool. So I'm playing Kid Icarus, of course. I have one retro game. I don't know if I want to save that for last or first. I'll say it first because the last one's a pretty cool game. It's the retro game that I'm playing is it was in my last pickups video. It's Wild Guns on the Super Nintendo, which is also it's a pretty rare game. I think a complete copy goes for over 100, so I was pretty stoked to get one.
Yeah.
And it's basically an arcade shooter where do you remember that game? It was in the first season. It was that Cabal game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a third person shooter before that was even a thing. You just move from left to right. You don't move forward or backward. You just shoot. Your cursor flies around the screen, but it takes place in the Wild West, and it's during like alien kind of invasion. So there's cowboys that you shoot, but also like robots and aliens.
So basically, they stole the concept for the movie Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah, they did. So it's a pretty cool game. You know, it like I said, it's an arcade shooter, so when somebody says that, that means it's hard. Um, Probably not very lengthy. You know,
Yeah.
I think there's only 6 levels or something in it. But you know, it's a really cool game, and like I said, it's pretty hard to find. Um, so it's kind of a little hidden gem. And I believe it's 2 player. And one of the players you can play as, there's a boy and a girl, and the guy is his name is Clint. I thought that was kind of funny. His name is Clint. So I don't know. I'm sure it was a little poke at Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, and the last game I'm playing is Skyward Sword, Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. I got it. There was actually a price drop. Toys R Us had it for $30. So I went online and because there's not really a Toys R Us near me, and I got it for $30. And
Good deal.
yeah. I'm excited. I'm very pleased with this game. It's just a lot of fun. Yeah, for me, it's happened. This would be the third time. The Zelda games kind of work for me. They kind of work like this. Everybody talks about how good they are. I want to get it. I finally get it. I play it, and it's like, okay, for the first, little bit, it's like, okay, is this really as good as everybody's saying? Because I'm really
Right.
not having that much fun with it. I mean, it's fine, but I'm not having that much fun. And then once it starts, it's like, holy crap, this is awesome. It's just a lot of, it's awesome. And Skyward Sword was really no exception. And I've only played, let's see, 3, well, yeah, I've really only played through 2 Zelda games. It was Link to the Past and then Ocarina of Time. And they both take place in Hyrule, which is like the Legend of Zelda, Mushroom Kingdom to Mario's Hyrule, the Legend of Zelda.
Right.
But this one actually doesn't. It takes place in a sky loft. It's a city in the sky, and it's you people get around. Their like vehicle per se is these birds called oh crap, what are they called? I think they're called sky wings, and yeah, the word Hyrule has never been mentioned so far in the game, so I don't
No.
really know where this game takes place at all. And
Right.
my brain would melt trying to figure it out. Um, but it's really fun, and it's not. There's no Ganon. Zelda, you and Zelda are actually like close friends. I don't even know if she's referred to as a princess in this game, but she gets like, you guys get like not abducted, but a tornado appears for some reason and you get separated, and it's this whole destiny thing starts unraveling. In the whole game you're actually going after Zelda, and she's like right in front of you, but you keep like missing her. And I'm only through like, I think I've done 3 dungeons. And I don't know if I'm going to my 4th or where I'm at in the game right now, but if you have a Wii, you have to get it. It's and you have I know you have a Wii, right?
Yeah.
And I know you said you're not the biggest Legend of Zelda fan, but
No, I mean, it's just one of those series that I just never, like, jumped on the ship, never just got full force into. But, I mean, if it's a good game, I'll probably check it out.
it's it really is. It's
Blow the dust off my Wii, because I haven't played it in forever.
oh you. um, well, the one thing is, do you have a Wii Motion Plus controller? Because you have to have one of those. And
I actually do not have one of those.
yeah, I didn't either, and I still don't. I'm actually using somebody else's, but um, that's the only thing. You have to have a Wii Motion Plus controller, and the controls are really cool. However you swing the Wiimote, like if you swing it from the top, swing it down towards the floor, Link will swing his sword like that. It doesn't mimic it 100%, but it basically does.
Yeah,
It gets a little tiring. It could get a little tiring at first, but yeah, you get used to it, and you can just flick your wrist. You don't even have to swing your arm.
like full
But
force.
right, but it's a really cool game, and I think I've said that like 8 times.
So it must
Let's
be
make
cool.
let's make it 9. It's cool. Right, and that's basically all I'm playing right now. Not too much going on.
That is it for me as well.
Yeah. Actually, I just got a game today in the mail. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a Wii game, and I kind of want to try it out when I get done here because it's kind of like a rare Wii game, if there were such a thing, which I guess there is. There's rare.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna give that a try, and I don't want to spoil it because it's gonna be my next video. But we'll leave people to guess. So I'm gonna
Let
try
them
that
guess
out.
in the comments.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Something about comments. We're basically at the end of the show. The what we're playing segment is the last part of the show. So I guess before we go, I just wanted to say, in the comments, it's called this questions and comments. So you can leave a question. In fact, it's preferred that you leave a question, I guess. Hearing great show guys, that's enlightening to hear. I like to hear that, but throw a question in there. That wouldn't be too bad.
Ask us anything. Ask
Yeah,
us what we had for breakfast. We don't care.
yeah. You might not get the best answer, but it's a question. You know. So that's it. That's the end of the first episode. We're done. We're at 50 minutes. We're gonna try and keep them a little shorter than last time. To keep it more, I don't know, appealing, I guess, to people who are listening.
A little easier to listen to.
Yeah, an hour and 15 minutes. That's a long time to sit and listen to something. But yeah, that's the end of episode 1. Upload times are going to be on Fridays. I don't really have a specific time because it could be different every other day, but Friday evenings will probably be when they're up. And yeah, so season 2 is underway, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I don't have anybody in my family that's due for a child, so
No.
I don't really think, unless barring some sort of odd scenario, I don't really think there will be any interruption. So
barring natural disasters, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Barring Kim Jong-il's son taking over the world.
Exactly.
I think we can
invaded by North Korea.
I think we can keep it going. So yeah, that's it for episode 1. So stay tuned next week, and we'll have episode 2 up. So until then, guys, yeah, take it easy. Yeah. See ya.